The time is never right.
The time is always wrong. Are you okay?
No. You never liked me, did you?
I never loved you.
You always thought I wasn't
that you...
good enough for us.
Yes, we're saying the same thing.
This is the Blood of Blood podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from coldsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
We're doing pretty well. It's officially springtime, so there's that. We've made it, and we got a fucking 2-foot snowstorm the other day. So, you know, what does nature have in store for us? Who knows?
Horrific ride into work, and what a horrific ride home, and what a horrific meeting of the snow when I got home.
What are you gonna do?
That was awful. Absolutely awful. But we're back. Hey, you know, if we were smart, the perfect springtime movie to do would have been to do The Producers.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has the song "Springtime for Hitler."
True.
Yeah,
would have been a good tie-in. No, instead we've got a little treat in store for you. It's kind of like a springy type movie. It's got a lot of those pastel-ish colors to it, and it's a movie that is directed by someone who we've done in the past multiple times. We kind of try to make like a yearly tradition out of it, I guess, covering one of his movies. And it's something that we've throughout the years been pretty attracted to in terms of films and his direction and things like that. Ever since we were wee teenagers experiencing cinema. Back during the Squid and the Whale time, right?
You're the one that introduced me to that, but before that, I was also already invested into Wes Anderson's output. You know, ever since the first time I saw the Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic at a friend's house. It was love at first watch.
Who'd you end up seeing that with?
At our friend Alex Wanza's house.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he had Life Aquatic. He liked it a lot, and we watched it together at his house, and I liked it a lot. And then from there, I did watch Royal Tenenbaums at his house. It was randomly one time on I think Comedy Central. They played it like once or twice back in like 2003 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Saw it on there, and I was like, this is awesome. So I asked for those movies for Christmas and really got invested into Wes's films from there. And Rushmore used to every now and then, back around that time too, be on Comedy Central. Every now and then. It was rare, but that's how I caught Rushmore too for the first time. So
Interesting. Yeah, and I mean I saw the Life Aquatic, I think, with you the first time. And I had seen the Royal Tenenbaums before, but but those were my two main entry points into Wes Anderson's canon. And then ever since, I think we've been kind of watching
We had Team Zizou shirts, remember that?
That is true. Yeah, we had matching teams. Yours was blue, mine was like a tealish green. Yeah.
And I wanted those goddamn Zizou superstars so bad, the Adidas from the movie. Still to this day, I do. But
my shirt's tattered in the garbage, I believe. Well, how about yours?
I think it eventually made it to the trash
Yeah.
because it didn't hold up, but because I got too fat for it.
Okay. No, I wore mine into holes, and
I
I
did
believe
too.
the Z on the shirt was fading too.
No,
It's like you
my
couldn't even
shirt
tell
was
what it was.
my shirt was pretty faded as well, but it was more. I think I got my fat ass outgrew it over.
I do remember too that shirt in because I was wearing it in college, and I was in college I was at a liberal arts school, and I studied English, and so I was in a lot of like those types of classes, and I remember at one point like these older uh students that were in there saw my Zissou shirt, and they were like, "Oh, you like Wes Anderson, huh?" And it was very much the type of pretentious people that you would totally expect. They literally, I think they did a presentation on Radiohead at one point. I'm like, it was just very like stereotypically
All right,
pretend. I'm sorry. I know you're a big fan, but it was this very, very stereotypical. I think it was OK Computer too. But they were very stereotypical, and they like came up to me and they're like, "Yeah, I just really love how he frames his stories around different types of media, like like plays and books and things like that." And I was like, "Yeah, I like him." That's basically it. Like,
see, I don't like. I agree because I'm not like really that much into like the. As much as I love him, I mean, I'm not also too like I would be totally turned off too. Someone's like, yeah, like watching Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. It's not just smart and funny because of like what's going on, but because he's taking the medium of like Jacques Cousteau documentaries, making it into this thing, right? I would totally be like, dude, shut the fuck up. It's got Bill Murray and Willem Dafoe and Jeff Goldblum, and they're hilarious. Okay,
I know. Yeah, no, I know. I don't know. I just didn't ever make the
Jeff Goldblum
to
hits a dog with a newspaper, which is something that I would not like at all, but he makes it funny.
Yeah, I think up at that point we were up to the Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah.
And I think they were like fans of the Darjeeling Limited, and I definitely at that time at least was not. I don't know if I am anymore. We haven't, like we talked about it before, we haven't seen it since. But yeah, so we were only up to that point.
The one good thing to come out of Darjeeling Limited is my everlasting love for the Kinks now.
There you go.
Lola versus the Power Man and the Money Grown Part 1, which is a big chunk of the soundtrack in that, was my introduction to. Well, I knew some of the Kinks before, but that really got me into the Kinks. And still to this day is one of my favorite Kinks albums and one of my favorite albums of all time. So that's the one good thing to pull away from that movie.
To be honest with you, I just don't remember the movie well enough either. So I need to go back and see it. But yeah, we're not here to talk about Darjeeling Limited or any of the other Wes Anderson movies that we haven't covered. I think we've done The Life Aquatic, we've done The French Dispatch, we did, and the Grand Budapest Hotel. We've done those three. We haven't done some of the other ones, though we've seen the other, the other films. But no, today we're here to talk about actually a movie that we were supposed to do last year, really, and just for whatever reason never got around to doing it. Asteroid City, which came out in 2023. And Anderson being a little bit more prolific recently, he's already released a short film to Netflix for some pretty big acclaim, and I think is working on his next feature film too. So we're a little late to this one, but that's okay.
The Phoenician Scheme.
Yeah, the Phoenician Scheme. Yeah. Yeah, so we didn't see Asteroid City when it came out in theaters. Kind of a little late to that. You had bought it when it came out on Blu-ray, but never actually watched it.
No, because I was saving it for the podcast. I wanted to pop that cherry with you.
Yeah.
But just like God, you know what? God bless Walmart, because I got Asteroid City and French Dispatch when they came out on Blu-ray, because they were out like on the new release thing, just right out there, $20, and it's like, thank you. Yes.
Like, perfect. Yeah, no. So we wanted to do this for a while, and we just never got a chance to. It was always something on our radar, and it seemed like something appealing to us as well, not just because of Wes Anderson, but also because of like the ideas behind it and the themes and stuff like that.
ScarJo's boobies.
ScarJo being in it. Yeah.
Tilda,
and not only
Tilda Swinton being
Not
in it?
only that, but taking the French Dispatches cast and then multiplying it by 2.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
70.
Yeah. It's like, his movies just keep getting more and more inflated. With the number, like, and pretty soon they're just going to release a trailer for it, and it's just literally just going to be the names. That's it. Just
What if
2
what if
minutes of names.
What if his next film is nothing but a 2-hour film? But that's just a trailer with the 30,000 people that were put into it.
I wouldn't wouldn't put it past him, right?
Yeah.
Right? He hasn't tackled the media of trailers yet in his movies.
He has done commercials. Remember the American Express commercial that he did back in the day? Yeah.
I do. Yeah, so, it definitely was an appealing movie, and I think this one, when it were released, it was kind of it was polarizing for most people, right? Like, some people really came away enjoying it a lot, and others, even if they were Wes Anderson fans, they didn't enjoy it as much. I do remember seeing some people who were like, you know what, I really like Wes Anderson, but like this one just missed the mark. And I was thinking, like, wonder how that could be. Like, what happened in that movie where people would say just didn't live up to my Wes Anderson expectations. Well, now we found out. So before we talk about that, let's take a break, talk about the beer that we have on the show today. What'd you get for us today? So it was your turn.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia real quick, and for the filming part, it says Scarlett Johansson was paid $4,131 a week for 2 months of her work.
Wow.
That seems low.
It does seem low.
But kind of makes sense because the film's on a $25 million budget. So I think at this point, people kind of just sign on to do it because it's like, yeah, we're not going to get paid at all, but
it'll be fun.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I do think that.
He's an auteur.
I think that's true.
So what I get today? Well, we're revisiting an old reliable and an old faithful for a brewery today. Located out of the heart of New York, and seeing as opening day starts tomorrow for baseball, even though technically it started last week in Seoul, Korea, fuck that, officially starts tomorrow with the Yankees and the Astros playing. I got a beer from the heart of Cooperstown from one of our local favorites, Brewery Ommegang.
Yeah,
and
we've had them a lot.
We have, because it's local, easy to get, and they constantly do make new stuff, so sue us. But they have a new Belgian style, which that's what they're known for. They're Belgians. Farm fresh ale that is honey conditioned. And this can has a delightful, like, Bavarian style flag with with green, blue, and yellowish orange on it. Nice and Eastery, nice and spring. Nice little farmhouse. That's the farmhouse that they have up actually at the brewery.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, it's a nice springy can, really.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And it's got like the kind of matte finishing to it now, instead of like, But anywho, so it's basically like a light farm saison, but a little bit lighter. 4.8%. It's honey conditioned, so it has notes of honey to it. I like this a lot. If you listen to the podcast at all, I love Belgian style beers. They're my favorite, especially saisons. They're great. They're crisp, refreshing, filled with orange, coriander, nutmeg. And this beer, no slouch in that at all. It's definitely got the nice yeastiness to it too. And what does make this beer different and stand out and good is that honey condition, because it is present. It's not overwhelming, but you definitely, as you're drinking it, get a sweet, tender little note of like honey, a little bit of lavender. And it does pair really well with this beer, surprisingly. I'm not really big on like, I do like honey, but I'm not really big on honey kind of infused type things, because usually it's either like a really good or bad thing. Like it can turn out good or turn out bad. I think here it does turn out pretty well. I like this beer a lot. You definitely, by drinking it, wouldn't have guessed that it's 4.8%. It definitely kind of feels a lot more filling and, but yeah, I like it a lot. I'd say go get it.
Yeah, I like this one too. This is actually kind of harkens back to Ommegang's roots. What they, used to do primarily was make Belgian style farmhouse ales like this. And they've kind of, with their Ommegang OMG series, they've kind of gotten away from that a little bit by experimenting with different types of beer. And this one kind of brings them back to their roots a little bit with the farmhouse style infused with that honey flavor to it that gives it like that nice little bit of sweetness that kind of takes away some of the bitterness that can sometimes be derived from, like the Belgian malts. A little bit about that Belgian hoppiness to it. This kind of takes that away, gives a little sweetness to it, gives a little floral element to it. And I think it's really, really tasty. It goes down really smooth, 4.8%. I think, is a nice sessionable ale without being overly weak. And I think this works really well as a nice springtime beer leading you in, getting you ready for outdoor festivals and treats that Ommegang generally has. And I think they've done this really well. It's, again, like I said, it's a nice throwback to what they used to do. I'm not saying that like their new stuff isn't good either. Their new stuff is great, but they used to really, really focus on that Belgian element to it. And they've kind of gotten away from that, tried to experiment with new things, kind of, with their staple beers, obviously, but they've definitely been more experimental. This kind of gets them back to that traditional Belgian style that they've been able to nearly perfect. So really good. Really like it.
Get ready because I'm on the website. A spring 2024 OMG beer that they got coming out is Raspberry Lemon Falls, a Belgian style wheat beer with raspberry and lemon.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah. I know they've been really cranking out some great stuff. Like I think we've done pretty much every OMG that's come out recently.
We didn't do the Neon Tides, did we?
I don't know about that one.
That's they did that with Old Harbor.
Yeah, I think we missed that one. I don't recall it ever being around here. It's one of the ones that I've never seen before.
But I'm looking basically, we've gotten everything basically done except like the Belgian inspired hop water and Melon Falls.
Yeah, we're Ommegang fans over here, so it's great. Go see if you could find it. Nice little springtime treat, especially if you like farmhouse style, saison style ales. It's really, really nice, tasty. All right, let's get into Asteroid City. This is gonna be a tough one. I'll start that out right now. This is gonna be a tough episode to parse through the ideas at play in Asteroid City. And I guess what I will start out by saying is, we talked about the extreme cast that's here. It's got just so many names in it. Many people.
I would say almost every Wes Anderson player is here except Angelica Houston.
Bill Murray couldn't be in.
Bill Murray and the Wilson brothers.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's actually kind of surprising in and of itself. It doesn't have the Wilson brothers. A little surprised. No Timothy Chalamet either. Saoirse Ronan. I mean, it's got a lot though. Like it's got a lot of people who are, mainstays, and it's also got a lot of new people in. But I guess what I wanted to say is I think that to some extent the actual appeal of this movie might be fair. It's definitely more accessible than The French Dispatch. Would you agree? Not so much, not the idea, not the whole film itself, but the overall like traditional storyline that you get presented with.
Yes, I'd agree because I think the short story, short film aspect of The French Dispatch told would be harder. Like if you had to pick like a recent Wes Anderson canon for people to get interested into his films, of which one to choose, French Dispatch or this, I would say this more so because it is a more linear story, even though it's not. But compared to French Dispatch, it is because
and not only that, but like in the French Dispatch too, you had a lot of historical contextuality, a lot of just I don't know, specificity to it that required some, I don't know, some knowledge of that element to really get into, versus this one, which I feel like, taken at face value, or at least what the plot synopsis says it is more accessible. The color scheme is more accessible. Everything about it is just more accessible on the surface. And I think that it's interesting, because I think as we work our way into the movie, the accessibility gets lost. I feel like, and it makes sense if you look at some of the reviews where people are like, well, I made it about 20 minutes in and I cut out. You can that's certainly apparent in the movie, because at about 20 minutes or so, like, you're going to get into it and you're going to be like, there are certain elements to it that just kind of are going to remove that accessibility. And if you're not comfortable with it, and you're not comfortable with the meta elements that are being thrown around in here, you're probably not going to have a good time. So it's weird, because it's almost like opening itself up to accessibility and then removing it once you get to a certain extent within the film. Which I think is kind of interesting, because this film is really complex. It has, the French Dispatch was complex in a different way. It had multiple different storylines that you were following in its sort of anthology element, where it was like a pseudo anthology. This one is complex because of all of the meta elements going into it. You're watching a movie that's a movie about a play, basically a TV special about a play. And that spiral is difficult to follow sometimes. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, it's definitely, it works, but it's definitely something that's I think is a little obtuse at times.
Mm-hmm.
A little too liking itself.
Yeah. In love with its own concept.
Yeah, a little fart smelly. Yeah. I mean, it's not bad for it, but it's definitely, like, if you're first time running through this film, it's definitely, and we'll talk about this later when we get into that and kind of investment portion of the film. But I mean, it's definitely something that I think, if you're not somebody who either likes Wes Anderson films or like shit that's really meta, it's definitely not going to be your cup of tea.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, to a certain extent, even towards the beginning of the movie, where you're presented with, Bryan Cranston, who's the narration, and he's, in black and white, and he's giving you.
Wouldn't he make a great Rod Sterling?
Yeah.
I mean, for, like a new Twilight Zone, like, as he's like popping out in black and white, like, in
the suit. Yeah. He is great as a narrator in this. It works really well. But he's the narrator, and he's basically presenting this making of feature about Asteroid City, the play, which is ultimately Asteroid City that we're seeing as it plays out as a play. Great production values, by the way, if this is a play that we're seeing, but there's there's this element of seeing the magic happen, right? Like, seeing the magic of the play occur. And occasionally you're presented with the actual play and all of the players in it, the characters, so you got Jason Schwartzman, who's playing Augie. He's a recently widowed father who's, bringing his children to Asteroid City because his son is in the Junior Stargazers program and has won a prestigious award at this place that has had an asteroid strike and basically, is built around this asteroid. It's a city that's built around this asteroid. And it has sort of this Looney Tunes, Roadrunner, and Wile E. Coyote scenic look about it, which I think the film actually consistently draws attention to with its
Don't
little
you-
Roadrunner.
Don't you constantly love too the American Graffiti style Roadrunner cop chase with like the kids getting chasing their sports car and being chased by the police as like they're driving through Asteroid City?
Yep. And so you have this element to it of the play taking place, and then throughout you have the break-ins from Bryan Cranston, who is providing the narration, and then not only that, but you have basically fourth wall breaks too of them performing the play, coming out of the play, Bryan Cranston accidentally being in the play, which is great. So, am I not in this? I'm not in this, am I? No.
They're like, who's this man?
Yeah. And then not only that, but like you have those fourth wall breaks of like continuity errors too. Of all of a sudden, Scarlett Johansson's character now has like I can't even remember what it is, but she has like something else. She has like she's holding something else when she wasn't before. You have those elements to it that are occurring at the same time in between the acts and scenes of the actual play that we're seeing performed, with little inserts that tell us the actual act and scene that we're about to be seeing. It's complex. It's a lot to put together. And I guess what I wanted to talk about, especially with what we talked about with the amount of characters and amount of actors that are actually in this movie, is sort of the bloat that creeps in to Asteroid City and whether that is impactful in how the story is told. So, I think we said in the French Dispatch at the time that was like probably the most Wes Anderson-y movie that he's made. It was very stylistic. It had all of the Wes Anderson elements that you could possibly think of. It had them all. And it included, animation, and it included pretty much everything that Wes Anderson had done up until this point. Do you think that Asteroid City is even more Wes Anderson-y than the French Dispatch?
Yeah, definitely ups the ante and definitely adds, like, because there's a lot of like that nice stylized stop motion animation and models and color palette and schemes, because Grand Budapest Hotel started to kind of creep in with like adding like the animation and some of the flourishes from his from the Fantastic Mr. Fox. You remember at the ending of that, like the whole like ski chase scene, they added in like the whole like stop motion stuff, which comes kind of out of nowhere. But now it is very seamlessly integrated into the film, and I think it's well done. It definitely is a stylistic choice that works and adds to the character of this film and its style. The style of this film is not the problem. It's definitely like full blown. Wes is totally, reveling in his style. The color palette's great. The outfits are great. The setting is great. The stop motion's great. The effects are great. Everything in this film looks great. It's a great looking film. Shot well. Just looks amazing. But that's like, again, when you compare this narratively to something else that he's done, like the Royal Tenenbaums or The Life Aquatic, that's where it kind of definitely gets much more nebulous, because even though it's definitely amping up the style and the feel of what he's done to 11, and you can enjoy that, what actually the film kind of is trying to tell as a story is very mixed. At least for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the complexity of the movie with all of its elements and recursive, elements to it, makes it so that with the bloating that I was talking about, all of the various characters, and there are a lot of characters, they do have such noticeable elements to them, but at the same time, a lot of the characters do tend to be there just to be there as sort of like I don't know, just like like a character stand-in for something to give you something to be watching to enjoy for the moment. And so their presence actually kind of adds details that might take away from your overall impact of the storyline, that you're focusing so much on the other elements to the movie. Like Liev Schreiber's character. Fun, funny, totally not necessary, right? Like he as a character, he's there, but also not really relevant to the overall story whatsoever. So like it's fun to watch him. It's fun to say like I'm gonna bring your neck, like like kind of like a Homer Simpson type character. Got a great mustache, almost kind of unrecognizable as Liev Schreiber here. He definitely doesn't look like Cotton.
You know what he basically is in this? He's a sophisticated Randy Quaid.
Yeah, that's pretty true. He just needs like the hat.
Yeah, he looks very much kind of like Randy Quaid in like Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, and like I'm not saying like I don't enjoy his character, and I think that's kind of the thing throughout a lot of Asteroid City. The movie is rife with all kinds of wry, sardonic humor, very like dry delivery that is great, and tons of lines that are very, very funny in their delivery.
It's definitely up there with Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic with its snappy, like, dialogue that's, just really wry and sardonic.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think was something that was missing from the French Dispatch, because we had like, stories that were telling, like the whole, young, resistance story about like, the manifesto at college and, on Louis Franc, it's, there wasn't really any, fun lines and things, really come from it. It was more, the idea.
Mm-hmm.
So here, like, like a lot of the lines in this film are very understated, hilarious.
Yeah,
but there's a billion of them though, and but like as you said, it's hard to remember them though because they are so quick-witted and like bang bang, just go 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 go. It's like the Dudley scene in Royal Tenenbaums. Like there's a dent in that car, and there and there and there and there as as Raleigh Sinclair's like, when you coming home?
Yep. It's like I think that that element to it of being so packed can sometimes, and I'm not saying this like it's not terrible to have fucking great lines throughout the entire film, but at the same time it's so packed that sometimes it's so dense that you can't absorb it all. It's hard to absorb all of the ideas that are being projected at you, and then just with the amount of characters that you're presented with, it does sometimes become like the ensemble is more of the focus than any one particular moment or theme that you're meant to be focusing on. So I kind of came away from this movie like thinking that it almost definitely requires a second viewing. It requires a second viewing so now you've digested the element of, okay, this is what we're watching. We're watching, the TV special documentary about the play while we're also seeing the play, and all of that kind of gets digested on your first watch, and you're kind of putting that into perspective. And then on the second watch, I feel like you can then take away all of that discovery from your first watch and then watch for the other elements that you missed when you were watching it the first time. So I think like it does definitely reward a second watch, and I haven't gone back and watched it a second time. So this is kind of off the cuff from us seeing it for the first time. But I think it definitely would be a rewarding experience to go back and, now that you know things.
Now, so here's something I wanted to bring up. Films that you watch where afterwards you're like, probably deserves a second watch. Are you a fan of that or no?
Well, it depends. It depends on whether I feel like the second watch is necessary because I wasn't able to piece together what was happening in the first watch, or if I think it deserves a second watch because it was so interesting and entertaining or thought-provoking that I need to watch it a second time. So I would say like this definitely falls into the latter category, that it was thought-provoking and I want to watch it a second time. But yeah,
will you? Are you gonna sit down and nestle up like, in 6 months, like time to rewatch Asteroid City?
That's a good question too. Would I? Yeah, I think I would. I actually feel like I probably will again fairly soon because my wife had said she wanted to see this, but I didn't have time to have her watch it with me while I was preparing for the podcast, so she didn't get to watch it. So I think I will actually end up watching it again with her.
So I will say, like, unlike you, but when it comes to like you with like games or movies or anime, well, I mean games, TV shows, anime.
Yep.
I am not a fan of second watches unless I really want to.
Right, you're like a one and done. I watched the movie, it was good, or it wasn't so good, and I'm
because I get it, because like there's some things, and it's not just with film. There's anime, certain TV show episodes, etc. There's things you're bound to miss that's going to be lying there that after going back and rewatching it, you're going to find something more there.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the concept. However, when it comes to like movies, unless like films that I usually revisit are films that I love, or they're films that are easy to just pop on, watch, and be like, haha, it's Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. All right, I can put it on and kind of, tune out a little bit. I'm not a fan of second, like, must-have rewatch films, because if a film doesn't hit it on the mark from the get-go, and I'm not saying yet that this film has or hasn't, but if it hasn't, if it warrants more like a second or a third watch to fully get it, and I didn't enjoy it the first time, I'm going to be very hard-pressed to go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with like a video game,
Mm-hmm.
or like a TV show. If it doesn't hit those sweet spots along the way, then no, I'm not going to waste my time going back to it. So if you're a film, especially a film, because it's more condensed, and that's kind of something that you need to get the most out of it, you better be engaging in something that's worthwhile. Otherwise, yeah, thanks. The second time watching The Witcher, I can understand what the hell's going on. I don't give a shit,
Sure.
Right? Tuned out and don't
You need
care.
that investment. Right.
Yeah. So, and that's something I ask for all media, not just movies, but like if you're going down that road, you better be damn engaging and engrossing while watching it the first time. Because again, you may not get that second watch for like a decade. So that's why, and like inherently, I'm kind of not like the biggest fan of that as like a thing, like as a trope.
Yep.
Because I think that's asking a lot of people today, especially with all the fucking media that is existing in today, to be like, all right, well, I know we didn't like it the first time, but like, watch it again, and maybe after reading a couple of Reddit threads, you'll really understand it. But I mean, I'm not saying that for this film, but again, like as a rule, for the most part, it's not something that it's really hard these days for me to like sit down, unless it's like a film that I really loved, to rewatch. Like, and there's films that we've done on this podcast that I've loved, like The Lighthouse, that I had. It's been like 3 years now. I haven't rewatched it yet.
So, what are you saying about Asteroid City then? Are you saying, do you feel that it warrants a second viewing?
It definitely does. It definitely warrants a second watch because of its metatextual context.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to sit down and do it anytime soon? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because again, it's.
I think ultimately what ends up happening is because of the elements that it's presented to you and in the way that it's presented to you, of the meta elements to it and the breaking through of the fourth wall over time, especially later on towards the end of the movie, we get into Act 2 and Act 3 where you start to see the film kind of break into the TV documentary more and more. There is both, like, first of all, like, you're not expecting it when you watch it the first time. The second time you will be. So you'll be knowing what to look for. But then there's also the themes that are presented to you while they break into that, which aren't necessarily apparent at the time of what's occurring, because you're kind of thrown for a loop. You're not really sure what to expect here. And you're not also sure which narrative you're ultimately meant to be following more. And I think that is partially the point of this movie. You're not sure which narrative you really are, is supposed to be the focus. Is it supposed to be reality, which is in itself still a film that you're watching? So the black and white that you're watching, less interesting in black and white. Is that the reality, or are you meant to see the reality as the actual fake play that you're meant to glean more information from? And the film kind of plays around with that, and it doesn't really give you an opportunity to make a decision on whether one or the other is more important to your overall enjoyment of the movie. Ultimately, it's not supposed to matter which one is more important to your enjoyment. Either one can resonate with you. And I think that's interesting and also difficult. It's difficult to
grasp.
It's difficult to grasp, difficult to come to terms with. And I think that the film kind of knows that, and it presents that in like sort of a jokey way at times.
It's kind of saying, the film's saying basically like it's okay to kind of either indulge in living in a slight fantasy or to be staring at reality and accepting it.
Yeah.
Because of the duality of, a play within a play.
And not only that, but like Asteroid City in and of itself is a fantasy area. It's not real. It kind of presents like a Looney Tunes type cartoonish place where it's devoid of most realistic elements to it. You've got like a fake plasma ray and a crazy moon shine device thing that can put a flag on the moon. Literally, you've got an alien coming down that looks like salad fingers. So it's outside of reality. And I think, kind of one of the things that I really like about how it presents Asteroid City, besides the fact that the font looks fucking amazing. I love I'm a typographer guy. I fucking love whatever font they're using for all of the signs in Asteroid City.
Great.
It's amazing. I love it. It like hits that sort of like
all the aesthetics of this film are great. The color schemes, the pastels, the 1950s aesthetic is great.
Norman Rockwell sort of like,
Yeah. The whole them being at the diner and you got this giant fucking menu of like 70 different menus
with one waitress and you don't see anybody else in there. They're gonna make 700 different dishes. I know.
Like it's all great. Like everything aesthetically here is great. Like the film looks amazing. And you're right, the Asteroid City like typography, especially like on the movie posters, great, and like the signs, it's all great. From all the details that you get to see, like ScarJo's bush, it's great.
It really hits, like, again, like we said, this is fucking Wes Anderson to the pinnacle of Wes Anderson elements. So
the model train opening credits, like, that's not an actual train, it's a fucking toy train,
Yep.
Tooting around with its avocados and pecans.
Yeah, and that actually kind of leads into what I was going for. Like, though I love like the whole elements of Asteroid City being sort of like this escape from reality, I like the addition of reality kind of seeping in here and there. Like, you've got like just a shot of like, hey, the train, it's got avocado. Look at that, it's got avocado. It's got Pontiacs. Oh, it's got a fucking nuclear bomb transporting too. Like
Which is funny too, because it says do not detonate unless
Yeah.
the pres, unless authorized by the president.
You've got all of this classic 50s stuff that you're thinking of, when you're watching this.
Grapefruits, avocados.
Yeah.
Nuclear war.
And then bam, nuclear war. And then not only that, but like you mentioned, the cops chasing down guys that are just popping off shots every now and then, coming through town. Literally, like the intrusion of this like unnatural element, a criminal element to this area. And then you have also the the whole idea of like this eclipse occurring, and that like, hey, it's such a beautiful eclipse, but hey, don't stare into it because you'll burn your fucking retinas with these 3 dots in there. Like, I like all these elements of like reality that sort of seep into Asteroid City, because I think that's really fun and like a nice sort of, because honestly, at the end of the day, I actually think though Asteroid City is probably one of Wes Anderson's like most dry, sardonic, and extremely upbeat in terms of how it presents itself, it is at its heart kind of a downer sort of film. Because I'm not saying that the ending theme of like not having to know everything about life in the universe and understanding that sort of idea, or understanding who you are in the scope of you being like a character in your own life and play, is, I'm not saying that that's inherently dark, but it is also hinting at the fact that like we can't say for sure. There is no, we there's no knowledge, there's no meaning that there's a god or there isn't a god, that there are aliens or aren't aliens.
Very live in the moment.
Exactly. And I do find that in some capacity, like even though that this is about the characters kind of moving on from that, it is at its heart, it does have a tragic element to it. Because overall the whole idea is shaped around Augie's wife dying and him being able.
Hold on. Margot Robbie died.
True.
So did he trade up or down by sleeping with ScarJo?
It's a good question.
There's your $1 million question.
That's the actual theme of the movie, is that it's you can't decide. That's the unanswerable question. Margot Robbie or ScarJo, like which is it? Yeah. It's not about whether you're an Episcopalian or believe in God or not. Margot Robbie or ScarJo.
I say that is a great line though. Like when he's telling the kids that his wife died and she's been dead for like 3 weeks, and he's like, my mom always said that Dad was in the stars, and this is where Jason Schwartzman's character is autistic, because he's just like, he's not in the stars, he's in the ground.
Yeah. I said they're wrong. They're not in the stars.
You see, he's in the ground. And listen, we'll say he's in heaven. I don't believe in that.
You guys do. You're Episcopalians. I don't believe in that. Yeah, I know. It's great. It's great because, again, like those are kind of throwaway lines in the scheme of things, but they ultimately do end up meaning.
Not only that, though, the kids go, his triplets go, we're orphans? He's like, no, you still have me. Like,
well, this is where Jason Schwartzman.
Oh God, we're orphans.
This is where Jason Schwartzman's really dry delivery works extremely well, because yes, when she says like we're orphans, he's just like flatly no. He's like no, I'm still here. It's great, like, because it does work really well, and some people probably would say all of the characters kind of deliver in that same like one note flatness, but Jason Schwartzman does a really good job at doing it very well in this movie. I would say that Tom Hanks does a really good job too at delivering it in that sort of like Bill Murray-esque way that his character.
He totally nails the Bill Murray douchebag shtick, but again, it's funny that he, as we were talking about before we even went on, that he gets third billing because he's in the film for like 15 minutes, if that.
I know.
But he does do a great job of just being like, Like the whole end scene, because they had they're burying his daughter's ashes, and because he's Jason Schwartzman's father-in-law, and they're burying his daughter's ashes into the ground in the desert in Tupperware, and he's like, "Well, I'm too tired to do anything about this. I said we're not going to do this, and your daughters refused to let up on this, so." Let's say a prayer. You want to say a prayer? Let's say a prayer. It's just great.
He's a great. I mean, he's a great character. He has great delivery. Definitely in that Bill Murray element to it. The film has a lot of moments like that, as we said, and they all kind of stand out. And they're memorable, and at the same time, there's so many of them. Hard to conjure up all of them that occur.
I loved when the kid was eating the hot pepper, and then like you go into Steve Carell's motel manager room, and he's explaining to like the Asian family, which does seem a little racist. Like, oh, you got the tents, like I went and I hooked up to all this stuff, and poof, the power went, and now you're intense. And you see the cast, like this discussion's happening, the kid run through like chugging from the Culligan machine, and after like a minute, he's like, "Excuse me, is there's something wrong with him?" And he's like, "Nah, he's fine." Dad's like, "He's fine."
He's like, "Is the gentleman okay?"
Okay, he's like, "Yeah, he's fine."
Yeah. I mean, I like all of those elements. I do think that the film has a sort of that tragic element to it, though, because you do have that whole idea of getting past her death. You not only that, but you do know, and it's kind of played out in a very like play-like manner of Jason Schwartzman's character, his real character, who he's actually playing he's playing the character in the play, but it's actually his real self. We know that he's romantically involved with the playwright of the play. We see that really quick. They're Conrad, or played by Edward Norton. They have a kiss.
Great. I'll say great and understated.
Oh yeah, yeah. They have that kiss that's really like very quickly played, and shows basically, hey, they had a romantic relationship, and then you find out way at the end of the movie, like, oh yeah, Conrad died in a car accident. You have that tragic element running through it again of Jason Schwartzman's character also playing a character who is going through that tragic loss of trying to find himself. It's all very complex and done very, very, nicely, I think, and especially the delivery of Margot Robbie's character, basically spelling out a whole deleted scene that she,
was in.
Delivers very, very expertly. It's a complex moment, but it also helps the film basically find its main motif throughout, that it's kind of hinting at as it goes along.
I think I say you're right. I do think that is a great part of the film, like especially when the end, when it's kind of spiraling into its own smelly fartness. It's when it is spiraling into its own meta-textualism, because as you said, we find out that Edward Norton, had died, whether it be by actual car crash or suicide. We don't really know. And as shit's hitting the fan during the play, and Augie's like, what the fuck's going on? I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I don't understand what is going on. I need clarity. And he goes and he talks to Adrian Brody, whose character is Shylock Green, Schubert Green, which, what a fucking name. But he talks to him, and he's trying to understand what's going on, and as the director, Adrian Brody's just like, none of this has to mean anything. And I think that is like a very simplistic but wonderful like beauty about the film when it comes to like that, because from a sense of as an actor in a play, like you or a piece of film or TV or whatever, you may not understand what's going on, what the writer's intentions are, what the director's intentions are, but you do it to kind of keep the production going. You know, and several people get told, like, as they're on like set, like, just go, like, you're doing great, you're doing a good job, keep it up. You don't need to know what's going on, just do it. But to contextualize that with if everything that's happening within this play, within a play, is reality for Augie, for Jones, who was a lover to Edward Norton, Conrad, it's definitely something that keeps the ball moving. Like, again, like, he's dead, like, and he's trying to find like this understanding. Like, why is he dead? Like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening to me? There's a very simplistic beauty in that. And I think that is something that is, really well done at the end. I did like that a lot.
Yeah, and I think that kind of leads us to the ending of the movie, in that we do there's kind of a couple different endings that you are forced to reckon with. There's the overall ending of the drama behind the play, where we find out that the playwright Conrad Earp has died, and then you also have the ending of the actual play, which is played out. And kind of interesting too is that sometimes with the breakaways, especially towards the end, you actually end up missing parts of the play that you're not seeing because it broke away into the actual documentary. So like when Jason Schwartzman's character comes out to talk to Adrian Brody, you're missing parts of that play because it truly is happening in real time as he comes out to talk to Adrian Brody. So it's kind of an interesting element.
Get to see Jeff Goldblum as the alien.
That's true. Real quick, get to see Jeff Goldblum. I think it's an interesting element to it, and I find that the ending itself I like the elliptical element to it, right? So we start out getting to Asteroid City. There's lots of various things. You see the train, you see them arriving, you see like panning shots of Asteroid City and how it looks. And then they go into the diner and you see all of these elements. And then at the end of the movie, you see them go back into the diner, all the panning elements again, kind of panning us out. And you have that elliptical element where they've now sort of changed. They've changed how they feel. They've changed as a person in Asteroid City. It's a very nice sort of synchronicity to it. But at the same time, for whatever reason, I felt like the ending kind of seemed a little flat to me. Like I expected more to the ending, and then the credits just started rolling. Do
you like that it ends back in the play instead of like reality?
Good question. I mean, do I think that is an intentional choice? Absolutely. We ended back in the fantastical play.
Everything's tied up neatly, and
yep,
they go on their merry way.
Which is something that you'd love to have in your own life, right? Everything be tied up neatly. Everything is a little bit better than when you left it. I think that's an intentional choice to do it that way. I'm not sure. I feel like, I don't know why. I feel like, and maybe that's part of the point, is that there's that there's a void and flatness to it where it ends. That kind of left me like, huh.
But also too, I say, sorry to interrupt. It does end elliptically though too, because by the time the ending with that play is happening, it's the same beats as the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything's repeating. Like, so the story goes on and continues, and this production goes on and continues.
Yeah, I mean, I it's hard. Like, I don't know why. I felt like it just ended a little flat, and maybe that's my own personal feeling about it, that I can't really quite understand, because overall I do understand and I do enjoy the overall idea that Wes Anderson is presenting to us. But I felt like when the credits rolled, I was waiting for something a little bit more, and I didn't get it. Even though I do find that there is a poignancy to it that I I don't know why. It's a very conflicted feeling that I ended up with at the end of the movie. And it wasn't even a conflicted feeling in that, like, I'm not sure I enjoyed that movie, because I know I did enjoy the movie. I am just conflicted about how it ended. And maybe that's part of the point, is that we all face a confliction of how everything ends. I don't know. I'm not sure how to put it into words.
I feel you. I definitely feel you there.
I think we both came to like sort of the same conclusion. And I mean, what do you think? Like, can you understand the polarization of this movie even for Wes Anderson fans?
Yeah, because I think if the film was just like not a play within a play, just the story being told of Asteroid City, it'd be like a nice little fun homage to 1950s style, sci-fi films, of the day. But with that meta aspect to it, I can totally see how it would give some rancor to some people. Because again, that's adding a new layer to the film, and also to asking people for like, do you want to watch this a second time? And if you didn't like it the first time, we're not going to sit down to give it that chance. So I definitely see it. And I definitely see too, because this is definitely a slower build, probably one of the slower builds for all of his films. Though I think it's funny and witty and dry. I revel in that dry, sardonic humor that's constantly layered out throughout the film. I can see how somebody who, if you didn't like the style and Wes's jokes, you wouldn't be engaged by 20 minutes and you'd be totally checked out. This is definitely a film that's a film for people who like Wes's films. If I were to recommend Wes, and I would to everybody, his work to people, this would be one of the last films I'd probably recommend, because it's so very niche. And I'll give him credit for that, to be honest with you, for making something that's niche, that's totally like, all right, this is what it is, and you're either somebody who's gonna be on the side of like, let's go, or you're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and to that point, I do think that again, this is a further extension of the French Dispatch, because in the French Dispatch there was a whole conversation about, well, whether you understand the art or not doesn't really have much of an impact, because there is always that question of like, well, what did that mean? What did that mean? And sometimes it doesn't.
Here you get the other side of the coin of, does it have to mean anything?
Exactly.
None of this has to mean a damn thing.
Exactly. And I think I get what you're saying too about that with the fart smelling, because there is that element to it of like Wes writing to that point, especially couching it as, with Edward Norton's character of the playwright, and people constantly asking like, well, why did he burn his hand on the griddle? Things like that. I definitely think that there is that element of him writing himself into that as the playwright.
The more interesting thing is he was so close to actually making a croque de monsieur, and he just made like a very bourgeois grilled cheese, which is probably what I'm making for dinner tonight.
To be honest with you, if you can get your grilled cheese to sound that crunchy crisp, then you've done something well. He didn't burn that grilled cheese. It sounded.
You know what? I felt Jason Schwartzman in my heart too, when like he's having this. His wife is only 3 months into the ground, and his wife was Margot Robbie.
3 weeks. 3 weeks into the ground.
Sorry. 3 weeks into the ground, and he's already like having a tryst with ScarJo, and it's just that. It's the tryst, and they're like, "Is this a relationship?" He's like, "I don't know." Is it? And she's like, "It means nothing. It means nothing. Does it mean? I think it means something. Maybe it means something. I don't know." And it's just like. And you're sitting there, taking pube shots of her and then making croque de monsieurs in front of her. What a life. Edward Norton was such a playwright.
Yeah, I mean, I like that element of it, but I agree. This would definitely be one of the last movies of Wes Anderson movie you would recommend to someone who is like, never seen Wes Anderson before? Like, sounds like it could be kind of cool. Like, what do you think I should check out? Probably, I would say either Royal Tenenbaums or The Life Aquatic would be the recommendation I would make for them. I think Royal Tenenbaums would be probably the most accessible for them. This one, far from it, because there is, like I said, there is that element of accessibility at the beginning. Like, oh, look at all these names. Look at this, this like iconic scene of the 1950s.
And that's again like something like that's kind of sad because again, like this, not just this film, but all of Wes's films are littered with acting giants and these talents. And when they make the film, they make a great film, and the acting is superb and flawless and great. It's the same thing here. The acting and the casting choices are great, and it's flawless, and it's well done. Very tight, enjoyable, and like, everyone's a delight. But that's not enough, to carry you into this film.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think too, that kind of, it goes back to what I was talking about though with the characters, with there being so many to focus on. It actually kind of takes away from the ensemble a little bit because you've got so many people. You're kind of inundated with them. I don't know. I think that and what you were saying about the Wes Anderson element of, recommending this movie as a Wes Anderson movie, I think, again, this is Wes Anderson in terms of the niche element to it. And it actually becomes a point where it's like, well, where does the line end? It's impressive. It's impressive that Wes Anderson can continue to find ways to out Wes Anderson himself. But at the same time, where does it stop? And to be honest with you, with both the French Dispatch and Asteroid City coming like back to back, I actually kind of want him to go back to the more insular elements that he used to do. Less ensemble, less big. Because I think it would be interesting to see him do less big, but still Wes Anderson. And try to find new ways to be Wes Anderson without all of the.
Let's just say, I think the last not really big ensemble cast would be Darjeeling. Because even though Moonrise Kingdom is kind of fixed, it does have a pretty big cast overall.
Yeah.
And then Grand Budapest was huge, and then French, so.
I mean, I think that the style has diminishing returns of the largeness and the scope of his films, that the scopes have becoming infinitesimally bigger. And I think that we started to see, especially with Asteroid City, that some people were not willing to follow him that far, as even Wes Anderson fans. So it's really interesting. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I think that it is what it is, and I think it is impressive that he's able to do that. It does make me yearn sometimes for just less. Sometimes, it'd be interesting to see. What else did we get to? What else did you have on your mind?
How'd you like hearing Big Iron on his hip in the music?
Yeah.
Nice new Vegas touch.
I like it. I also like the bluegrass song that pops up here. We didn't even talk about that.
Nice alien Bible blessing. I love that kid that's constantly just saying prayers throughout, and then I also love too that they're constantly just the one kid who's like, you want me to jump off this bungalow? No. Jumps off the fucking thing anyway. Great.
Yeah, and I think again too, that is an interesting character because very explicitly they do have him sort of wear his raison d'etre on his sleeve there, because basically Liev Schreiber's character is fucking fed up with him always asking to be dared about something. He's like, why do you do it? Why do you ask to be dared? And he basically responds with like a very, like, almost like he goes into like his own, like, almost, I don't know, like he goes into like a fugue state. And he basically says his whole like thematic existentialism of not being remembered for something. So it's kind of, again, like that is a theme to this movie, and it sort of overstates it. And you know what, too? It's kind of funny because it harkens back to that scene where Edward Norton's character is discussing the character of Augie with Jason Schwartzman. And Jason Schwartzman asks him about why does he put his hand on the griddle and blah, blah, blah. And he says something. And then Edward Norton's like, that would be a great line. It's like, well, maybe not. It's like a little overstated. It's kind of like that same idea of like, what is too overstated within this movie to explore its theme versus what's too understated about it, what's too meta for the movie itself. It all ties in really, really well at times, and it's just interesting how it didn't resonate with some people.
How do you like when ScarJo's like, I was gonna do a nude scene, do you want to see it? And Augie's like, did I say it?
Did I respond?
And it's just like, you didn't say anything. He's like, yeah, my mouth didn't speak. Like,
hilarious. Again, it's just those moments. There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of moments like that are just, or like her putting on bruised, eye makeup. And he asks her, and he's like, well, what did you do to deserve that? She's like, oh, nothing. It's just makeup. He's like, well, why are you wearing it? She's like, well, because I'm studying for a part. He's like, oh, what happens in a movie for you to get a black eye? And she's like, well, I don't get a black eye in the movie. It's just actually internal, but I'm externalizing it. It's pretty funny.
She does get asked constantly throughout, like with like her eye makeup dripping like that. Like, oh, who hit you? And she's like, nobody.
I mean, I really like it too. It's like, again, what you said too. This is an actor's movie too. It very much is, because it does have all of those elements of acting, of things that probably non-actors would not understand. Me as well. You talked about off the air, like how this is kind of like almost like for drama geeks, right? It's for like people who understand that element behind plays.
Yeah, theater nerds.
And me particularly, I'm not one of them. I'm not a theater fan. I am a fan of? I am a fan of reading plays. I'm not a fan of seeing plays. For whatever reason. And I'm definitely not a musical fan. But I don't know. It's an interesting idea, I think, for sure. What else?
You read The Merchant of Venice a billion times.
I actually haven't.
No? Well, shame.
But I am a fan of reading plays. I don't know. There's something about it. Like, I would prefer to read a play than watch it. I find plays to be very dry. I'd rather read them.
It all depends. I like musicals too. It all depends. But
what else? What else did we talk about? There was a lot to talk about. I tried to do my best to guide us through it. Hopefully, we did a serviceable job trying to cover everything in the span of this.
What did you think of the stop motion that was put in the film? I already said I liked it. Like, how did you feel about it?
I really liked it. Like you said again, like all of the set design is really excellent, whether it be the train sequence that is, a model versus some of the models of the actual city versus the stop motion that he used for the alien. Like I said, I loved the stop motion mostly because it made me think of Salad Fingers. just made me laugh.
Can you imagine Jeff Goldblum doing salad fingers? Yes.
It'd be great.
Yes, I love the way these rusty spoons feel on my body. Yes. Oh yes, this is delightful. I love it a lot.
You know, in talking about the set design too, one thing that I really loved is the shot of the gigantic asteroid crater and then just one small little queue up line.
Yeah.
Like you can go completely go around it.
And then as the military shows up, one guy's standing at the top of the queue defending it. Like, yeah, that's great.
Loved it. What do you think about the idea of science behind this movie? Because the movie does it has Tilda Swinton primarily as the scientist of the
Hickenlooper.
Yeah, studying the asteroid and studying all of the space and constellations.
I think it's fine. It adds that nice sci-fi vibe. How do you feel about it tying into COVID with the quarantine and the kind of aka shoddy science going into it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think that they were saying it wasn't right to quarantine. I do think that there is some commentary about what quarantining did or has done in terms of bringing people together, making them realize certain things, making them see different viewpoints of life or how you live your life. So I do think that does go into the element of quarantine in this movie too, because they're forced to be quarantined with these different people and ultimately change their viewpoints as they go along. So I think it's an interesting idea that did obviously happen during COVID quarantine. I don't know.
So you don't think that Wes was trying to say that ivermectin will save the day?
I don't think so. I didn't see Joe Rogan show up in the backgrounds. I was looking for him. Didn't see him during when they're at the playwriting, when he goes to the acting class with Willem Dafoe. I was looking for him in the background there. I didn't quite catch him. So it's too bad Willem Dafoe doesn't get more time too. Honestly, really
underutilized.
Yeah,
but
no,
you know
I enjoyed it. Steve Carell is kind of an interesting inclusion in the.
He does great. He's great though. He's somebody that would totally fit into the canon though.
Yeah, I agree.
That role that he is as the motel manager was supposed to be Bill Murray's role. I think he does a better job. I think that role. I don't think Bill could be that kind of.
I agree.
Lighthearted with it.
Yeah,
he's too much of a Debbie Downer.
He was Steve Carell. I think did a great job in being sort of like that unnecessarily upbeat person, which I don't think Bill Murray could have pulled off very well in that scenario. Because you've got all the ridiculousness of every single fucking vending machine that he's got going on there, the real estate that he's trying to hawk on people. Yeah, it's great. I think there's some sort of there's a nice smarmy upbeatness to Steve Carell in that role that I don't think Bill Murray would have done that well. Like I said, I do think that
as I say, can you imagine too? Because one of the films that I remember watching, it might have been the first film that we really watched together in high school, is Little Miss Sunshine. That Steve Carell role as Frank was originally supposed to go to Bill Murray. Can you imagine Little Miss Sunshine with Bill Murray in that role?
Yeah, I know.
It'd be totally, totally different. So, but yeah, I think, Steve Carell, he's great in it. He's just like, what kind of juice do you want? Tomato, orange, or great, apple, or just constantly piping in with that. Like, what juice do you want? Tomato, orange,
honestly, though, what kind of place does not offer fucking cranberry and they offer tomato instead?
I want to know who is getting tomato juice just on the regular without a Bloody Mary or anything. What are you doing?
Exactly. I don't know. I can't get down with a motel that's going to offer tomato instead of cranberry. It's like, no, thank you.
I agree.
You want five?
So-
You want 5 sides of flapjacks? Sounds delicious.
I hate when people call pancakes flapjacks. Fucking hate it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think I've ever really used the term flapjacks for pancakes.
Next time you go to a diner, sit down and be like, I want flapjacks.
Take 3 stacks of flapjacks.
They'll look at you like you're a fucking asshole. Like, this guy's a douchebag. Like,
all right, continue on with your thought there.
I was gonna say, so I think we hit it all.
I think we did, or as much as we're going to be able to, as much as we're qualified for.
It's not a lot. A couple of beers and a rating. So, what would you give this film?
Where's our scale?
Well, you say the scale. You're the one that does that.
I thought you had the scale, though.
I did, but
I thought you had a specific scale.
all right. Yeah, I did. All right. Well, do you have anyone better? Anything better to offer? The scale that I have?
No, I was just, I just was going to say the prayers for mustard, relish, and ketchup,
The Episcopalian prayers.
on a scale of those prayers.
So mine is out of 0 to 10 ScarJo bush hairs.
Mm.
Then you get to see bush. Just says PG-13.
Yeah.
Full frontal now. ScarJo boobies and bush. Maybe because it's CGI then. Who knows? So, out of 0 to 10 midges black pube hairs. What would you give Asteroid City?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie throughout the experience, and I think that's probably a good word to use, is that it's an experience. You've got the ensemble cast, you've got a very complicated storyline that at times feels very distant to you. And at the same time, you have the characters in the play who feel more real to you than the actual people who are, when they break away in the fourth wall. I think like all of it is very complicated. Maybe too much so at times. Maybe, like you said, a little fart sniffy and a little too over, a little too exaggerated for its own good. Little too bloated, but at the same time, I really, really enjoyed like every moment of it leading up to its conclusion. And I don't know, it's just something that I find like it was a really good Wes Anderson-y style movie. Probably in terms of the actual script itself and the dialogue, I enjoyed more than The French Dispatch. But in terms of the story itself, the themes that are presented, I feel like it maybe just pales a little bit in comparison to The French Dispatch in that regard. With that said, at an hour and 45 minutes, I was never bored. I actually kind of felt like it might be a little bit, it might have been a little too short in terms of all of the themes and ideas that it presents. Cause it's like I said, it's very bloated. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things to look out for. So I think it does suffer from some of like the later Wes Anderson bloat at times, but very fun, very engaging, great dry sardonic humor that it's delivered excellently by a lot of Wes Anderson veterans as well as some new people to his movies. And I think overall I enjoyed it quite a bit, while also at the end feeling a little bit understandably frustrated by it. So it's definitely something though that made me think a lot about it. So it's not like Leprechaun Origins, where I just watched it and then instantly forgot what the hell happened. This one definitely stuck with me, and I'm still kind of like pondering all of the ideas and all of the details and choices that were made in it. And so I think that's kind of all you can ask for when you're looking at a movie. So 8.5 for me.
Pretty generous. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I am very conflicted about how I feel about it. And as we were texting back and forth, as I was, you watched it before I did. And as I was watching it, and I was like almost a little over halfway through, you said, don't know how I feel about that. And I was thinking to myself, how can that be? What could possibly happen in this film to make you kind of feel that way? And then you get to the film and the ending, and you feel that way. It's definitely, like, again, like, as somebody who loves Wes Anderson films, loves his aesthetic, loves his style, aesthetics and feeling and casting and acting, this film's great. 10 on 10. Looks great, has all the feels, has all the aesthetics, the tropes, the dry sardonic humor. We didn't really go over a lot of the lines in this film that are really fun and punchy because there's a lot of them, and it's hard to remember everyone in this film because it is, for what the film is, very punchy. It's a very, on that aspect, a very enjoyable film. Where I have mixed feelings about it is kind of with the meta-contextual analysis of this film, because while I appreciate what it's trying to do with the whole, play within a play, telling a story, and showing kind of the other side of the French Dispatch of showing that the meaning we gather in life and throughout art and such is what you make of it. I think that element of this film is kind of very obtuse, and at times, if you're not somebody who enjoys these types of films, is going to find to be very pretentious, even for a Wes Anderson film. And I was kind of there too, because by the end, though, there are, like, again, like the beautiful part of Jason Schwartzman as his actor playing Augie, coming to terms with Edward Norton, his lover's, the playwright's death, and trying to contextualize it, in showing that, like, his death doesn't have to have any meaning to it because that's life, and life kind of just rolls on. And we didn't talk about it. That whole scene where he's talking to Margot Robbie about the scene that was cut from the play due to runtime, because this is a play and it's taking place on a, not necessarily Broadway, but in a area of a city where there'd be plays. One of the plays says a narcissist's tale. So it's again, it's like, it is like Wes does know that he's being very indulgent here, that he is being narcissistic and gaudy. But I think the most interesting parts of the film is when it's just focused on Asteroid City. Whether it's a play or it's just a story being told, would have been a lot more enjoyable. I think the meta-contextual analysis is fine, but it definitely gets into smarmy film school analysis kind of territory. I like the film. I will definitely watch it again to kind of see if it flows better after the fact. But I mean, as a Wes Anderson film, it is the most Wes Anderson-y film. But the animation, the special effects, the acting, everything in here is good. It's just, I think the storytelling out of a lot of the films that he's done is one of the least lackluster, even if it is one of his more ambitious efforts when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
So 8 out of 10.
Nice. All right, what do we got next? What are we planning on?
I don't know. You got a fucking April Fool's Day holiday slasher?
Well, we've already done the titular April Fool's Day. I don't know if I have any more, but I'm sure I can come up with something if you really wanted me to come up with
Please don't.
If you wanted me to come up with a very, obscure slasher, I could probably do so. Yeah, I don't know. Let's we'll think on it and come up with a game plan for the next one. I don't really have a specific element in mind, and we did talk about possibly doing a new difficult films month, right? at some point. I don't remember exactly when that was that we did that last time.
I think it was May.
May. Yeah. So maybe we'll lead up to doing that at some point here. So yeah, we'll take a gander and decide what we want to do. Be fun. And
Could get ready for Smokey and the Bandit too.
there you go. There you go. That'll be fun. I've never seen it, like I said. This is the first time I saw Smokey and the Bandit, so could be a fun one. How about Police Academy?
Oh my god, then we have 8 films to do.
I know.
Wow, it's been 2 years since we did Difficult Films Month.
Really?
That was in May 2022.
Oh, good to know. Huh?
Seems like just yesterday watching Funny Games.
That's right. All right. Well, if you want to hear us hear what we cover on next week's episode, or next time, not next week, but it'll be 2 weeks from now. You should subscribe to us. Leave us a nice review on pretty much any podcast app you can think of. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, whatever you want to listen to. Thanks for subscribing.
We're a top 10 Joe Rogan podcast.
That's right. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want us to try to cover, and we'll take that into consideration. And you can also donate to us on our Spotify page or our Patreon page. Whatever you donate will go back towards beer. So we appreciate that in advance. Thanks for listening to our episode on Asteroid City. Hope you enjoyed. Hope we were able to moderately put that into some sort of listenable
oh yeah, you never chose ScarJo or Margot Robbie.
I'm gonna go ScarJo all the way.
Okay. Our friendship
that's the difficult choice. Yeah, thanks for listening. Hope to see you back next time.
Margot Robbie doesn't get paid by the pube hair.
That's true.
She's got a Harley Quinn contract.
True.
She dyes her hair instead. But until then, take care.